Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Miscellaneous Gab, and at long last, we're here to discuss The Last of Us. I'm going to call this a mid-season check-in. I'll be discussing episodes 1 through 4 of season 2, so spoiler alert there. The reason why I haven't done deep dives into every episode is simply because, one, I'm a more casual viewer when it comes to The Last of Us. Secondly, I am not familiar with the game at all, and there are a lot of people on here making videos about The Last of Us who are very familiar with the game, the lore, and I just feel like they perhaps have a little more nuance to add to the conversation. The third reason is because The Last of Us is a very difficult watch for me. For one, I don't really like anything to do with zombies, and I make the exception for The Last of Us because in many ways, it's such a compelling story, and certain episodes are very well done. I had a very weird relationship with season 1. Episodes like season 3 obviously shattered me. I joined the chorus of everyone saying it was one of the best, most moving pieces of television. There were these high and low points of season 1 where you'd have these really compelling scenes, and then just episodes where you were kind of waiting for something to happen. And then an episode like the one with Sam that was just so gut-wrenchingly depressing. I have some thoughts on season 2. Buckle up. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and my seasons as a whole overall. I feel like the season is a little polarizing amongst fans, so definitely chime in with your thoughts below. What do you think? How are you feeling about everything? And like I said, spoiler alert. Shows like The Last of Us always blow my mind a little bit. For one, because I think about myself in these kinds of situations. I think that's a normal human thing to do. But then again, it's also so hard to imagine me with my life and the privilege and safety that I've known versus somebody who's had to live on the edge of the apocalypse for 20 plus years. Even people who were born into that life. It's a much more serious, it's a withered, tougher way of life. I can't relate what daily life would feel like in this way if you're constantly looking out for your own survival, waiting for the next person to get chomped by some zombie. It does, however, make me wonder just how long I personally would last in the apocalypse. And I think I would either be on either end of the spectrum. Either I would be one of the first to go, and I'd be very happy for that. Patient zero, if you will. Don't need to see all this suffering, don't need to see all this chaos, don't even have to gain the hope of living. Or someone who actually survives until the very end because I've found somewhere to hide and run, and my self-preservation instinct is rather strong. I certainly wouldn't be the hero. I would not be saving people. I would not be leading people. I would just be finding a hidey hole and staying there for as long as I can. In episode 1, we see that 5 years have passed since Joe's crash out against the Fireflies in Salt Lake City. There seems to be tension between Ellie and Joel. Things are complicated, and we don't actually know if it's because of the things left unsaid from 5 years ago, their complicated past and their relationship, or it's just normal 19-year-old teenage angst, kind of living with a man who's literally some guy, but who's also saved your life on more than one occasion, who's also kind of your pseudo father figure in a really fucked up way, in a really fucked up life that hasn't gone according to plan for either of you. So I get it. The dynamics are complicated. I could just tell by the way this episode was set up that things were not going to end well, that something was either going to happen to Ellie or Joel, and that their last memories of one another, I didn't know who would go or what would happen, but it's that horrible lesson that you don't know what you have until you've lost it. So as a reminder, hug your family, hug your people, say hello to that person you've been ignoring for a while unless they really did something messed up. It was very interesting for me to see this new normal of Jackson, Wyoming, this normalcy in an impossibly abnormal world that they've created. They have family, they have some sort of law and order, governance, community, celebrations, the New Year celebration, everything like that. I get the feeling that there's been this rather long chapter of peace with occasional hiccups here and there. Now, right off the bat, we see a very angsty, angry attitude, potty mouth Ellie. I think Bella Ramsey does a wonderful job playing Ellie. I've always enjoyed them as Ellie, and I obviously have nothing to compare it to in the game. However, I do feel like they wrote her as like a caricature of some tough, badass apocalypse girl. And I do think sometimes it just doesn't work. You'd think that 5 years past her teenage years, she's a young woman now. And yes, there's angst, but you'd think that there's also like maturing, becoming more wise and maybe learning something. The line where she's going out on a watch and she's like, oh, my ass is frozen to my seat, kind of like talking like some old man. It just feels weird coming out of a very baby-faced actress who's also very short. So some of that just doesn't compute in my brain, but for the sake of it, I'm going with it. I don't hate it. It's just a thing. We also meet Dina, who is Ellie's best friend. Ellie also has a crush on her. Dina's a ton of fun. Love the girl, okay? I honestly think at this point, she is helping to carry this show. She seems to have her own close relationship with Joel. She's Ellie's best friend. She has this on again, off again thing with her boyfriend. We also meet this therapist that Joel has been seeing, and I kind of thought this would be some kind of comedic relief, Tony Soprano situation where you have Joel, who's done some crazy shit, is here kind of mourning and whining to this therapist who seemingly has absolutely no pity for him about how his pseudo daughter isn't talking to him. Now, there's a lot under that, a lot kind of feeding into that. I'm really glad Joel decided to seek help and talk to this woman, but even she too has been hardened by her experience. Now let's talk about the whole grocery store scene. So Ellie and Dina go out on this watch. Everyone does watch. Every person in this community has a part to play to keeping the community safe. We see this large dead bear outside of a grocery store, outside of a market. Ellie and Dina get so excited at the fact that they might be able to slaughter an infected. The way they acted with the grocery store just felt very weird, comedic, teen drama relief. You think that in this world where people are still regularly dying because they're bit by an infected, that no amount of experience would make you that cocky. Now, I understand Ellie has this shield on her because of her immunity, but her best friend, the girl she has a crush on, does not. Fun, let's like rock 'em, sock 'em, nothing can touch us, this untouchable feeling. I just feel like, girls, you have not been humbled by this world. I'm sure they've known multiple people who have had to be, quote, put down because they've been bit by an infected on a ranging mission. It's just part of the world. While I did think the actual cinematography and the scenes and the setting and finding that infected that was a bit more smart and aware was high stakes and interesting, their attitude around it didn't make sense to me. Jackson in some ways reminds me of a friendlier District 13 from the Hunger Games, where especially in the Hunger Games books, it's all freaking business. There has to be this military-esque order to society, chain of command, following the rules, and that's ingrained in the way people live in order to help them survive underground for all these years, ration appropriately, etc. So the fact that they're acting like these rebellious little girls, running away from their captain, being super unnecessarily risky, even potentially risking other people's safety. They have this New Year's dance and they start to get a little with Dina and Ellie. I feel like Bella Ramsey did a great job acting this. Then we get Chuck Bass's dad, Bart Bass, coming through to be a little homophobic and angry. Joel comes and pushes him away, and then Ellie is so effing rude to him. I wanted to punch her in the face. Daddy Joel was there to just protect her and save her, even if it means being aggressive towards someone. He's always willing to hurt someone for her. And she literally is so ungrateful. So ungrateful. Bad, Ellie, bad. The last thing about episode 1 is we're introduced to this contingent of fireflies we later learn is WLF, spearheaded by Abby, who has been wronged in a big way by Joel. Joel, when he crashed out at Salt Lake City in order to save Ellie from being sacrificed to find a cure for the zombie thing, he shot her dad. An unarmed doctor, although he was holding a scalpel and was going to kill Ellie. She is back. She wants to make him hurt. She wants to make him pay. We see them standing by the graves at the beginning. Now, I was a little confused here. I've since had one of my Discord friends clear this up. I was a little confused on, were they seeing those graves 5 years previously, and then it took them 5 years to go from Salt Lake City to Jackson, which I did look up, and it would take about 2 weeks of walking if you followed the highways. So where were they for that time? And also, I'm sorry, but even the biggest like chip on your shoulder, can that carry you with such vehemence and anger and spite for literally 5 years? It would have made more sense if it would have been like a 2-year time jump, or 3 years, or maybe they had to like, we saw a little bit more of where the Fireflies are going. It feels to me that the Fireflies, Abby and co, are very young and inexperienced. They're probably well trained in terms of how to handle weaponry and kill something, because that's what a lot of people in this world are. But you can feel the hesitancy, the uncertainty in them actually going out there and being prepared to do what she wants to do. Episode 2, holy shit, this was so good, guys. This reminded me of peak Game of Thrones, Hard Home, the Watchers on the Wall, the intensity, the battle, the personal struggle, the alley-oop with the whole Joel situation. If you didn't play the game, you didn't know it was coming. Everyone goes out on patrol and there's a storm brewing inside and outside. We know those sleeper zombies have a direct line into that tunnel thing, that pipeline that's growing. There's some hive mind situation going on, signaling, beaconing them. Joel and Ellie never get to follow up on their whole situation from the previous night. Tommy is on high alert, and it seems, like I said previously, that the town has not had to encounter something this high risk in a while. He thinks something's brewing. There's just not a good feeling about any of it. Two main things happen in this episode. So Abby gets lost. She's clearly in over her head, too big for her britches on this revenge mission for Joel, and she gets caught in the blizzard, frozen. I feel like I could feel in my bones how cold they were, and she accidentally awakens this massive horde of seemingly more intelligent infected. She runs away, and the scene of them all crashing into the fence, ooh, that was crazy to me. She runs into Joel, he does his thing, he saves her, and they all get away. They're frozen. Dina is on the verge of frostbite and hypothermia by the time they get to that really nice house, which is just across the valley from Jackson and has a really nice vantage point of the entire community. Why wasn't this some sort of armed outpost? It's too close to just be a seemingly well-equipped shelter just hanging out there. Raiders, anyone could just come hang out, plot their entry points. What's going on? Again, I didn't know this was coming for Joel. I thought there was going to be this reckoning. Abby was saved by him. He really tried to pull that out, like, hey, I saved you. And we get this really intense, visceral, gross, terrible, painful scene in which she kills and tortures Joel. I love how she's like gearing up, and Joel, who's so hardened, he knows he's done bad things. I'm sure he didn't think he would die a peaceful death at the end of all of this. He's like, just shut the fuck up and get it over with. The look on her face, that was so funny to me. I'm like, yes, yes, Joel, yes. I could feel Abby's anger and uncertainty. Man, the Fireflies, other Fireflies piss me the fuck off so much. They're all just standing there like fucking idiots. I mean, I know we all hate Abby, and Abby is public enemy #1 right now, and Abby killed Joel, but in some ways, like, I get it. It's this cycle of pain. It's this cycle of revenge in this world, and if you don't stop it keeps going. I get it. If somebody killed my dad, I sure as hell would go after them as well. That shit's not gonna fly with me. You want her to drop it, but you want Ellie to then go off and seek revenge and avenge Joel's murders. Ellie arrives just in time to see Abby deal the final blow to Joel, and it is absolutely heart-wrenching. I felt all of the emotion that Ellie was feeling in that moment, the regret, the things unsaid, all the time she ignored him, gave him the cold shoulder, all the things that I wish she would give anything to take back just to see him get up, and the fact that he tried to get up. Whew. What makes it even more depressing is that Joel died not knowing if the rest of his family and everyone else he cared about was also dying too. How determined he was with every last breath to get back there, to save them, to save more people. I think it's really sad that Joel is gone. I'm obviously really sad about it. I think Pedro Pascal and HBO, he is always going out violently. Meanwhile, there's this whole other thing going on, the attack on the wall, on the compound, and I was dialed in for this. This was so intense. I really enjoyed seeing all these different ways of preparation. They had the guns, they had the barrels of gasoline, the fire, they had the dogs. They had the dogs, which the dogs seemed to be the best thing once they breached the weak spot of the wall. I wasn't sure how things were going to end for Tommy or even his wife. I was concerned about that. All the women, children, everyone kind of waiting in the basements below very much reminded me of Game of Thrones, like the attack on Winterfell. They made it out, but obviously not everyone. And the way Tommy faced off with that bloater, I know he was walking through, that crowd had some serious plot armor on him, but I'm glad he's alive. It's going to take them a long time to rebuild from there. It was very sad at the end to see people bitten. Like that's a sad thing for me when someone knows there's no hope for them and then someone has to mercy kill them. That's very sad to see. However, I'm very curious now. I know Ellie's immunity is a secret, but why don't they keep people around longer to see if more people are immune? Maybe there's a holding cell for potential infected. You just have someone sitting there with an AK-47 on their knee ready to shoot as soon as they turn. But you would think that after all of this time, 20 years in the apocalypse, there might be more than one person with immunity. Is that wishful thinking? What do you guys think about that? So then we have episode 3, and episode 3 felt a little bit more like episode 1 in that it was a little slower. Back to the teen drama, the romance, the will they, won't they, Dina and Ellie. Does Dina actually like Ellie, or is she just bi-curious in that way? We see the aftermath 3 months later. Ellie's been in the hospital. You know, her scream, her anger, I felt all that very raw, very visceral. I liked seeing the vote of the townspeople on whether or not to seek revenge. I think it's very understandable that Ellie wants to get revenge, and that's going to be a main point to come. But also with the townspeople, no matter how much they love Joel, sending 16 of their best people when they're this vulnerable to avenge someone who's already dead isn't a good idea. Objectively, it's not a good idea. I understand what Chuck Bass's dad said about how they could come back and it's seen as weak and they have to hold their own. They don't want more people coming and killing more of them. And I know they don't really know why Abby did this, so they can't just say, oh yeah, that was just an outlier revenge killing. Like, it seemed they don't know if more people are coming. They don't know what's going on, but I really like seeing that due process in a way. Dina and Ellie decide to go out on their own, and we're back to that cocky confidence, zooting up, getting the horse and heading out to go into God knows what, because they haven't learned the lesson that the world is dangerous, the world that they live in. Dina also tells Ellie about what she saw, their names, what she observed while she was in that house. They're this sect called the WLF with a wolf logo. We then meet this group of nomadic people that reminded me of the 100 so much. The only thing they have this scar that seems to be this kind of self-inflicted decoration. It's like they have their own interesting set of beliefs. This idea that you get a tool as you get a certain age. We see this cute girl walking with her dad, coming of age, etc. And then they start to freak out talking about the wolves. I thought, well, okay, why would the wolves be a threat to this people who are seemingly minding their own damn business? Are they talking about actual wolves? However, when Dina and Ellie see the straight up massacre that comes later, it's so barbaric. There are people who are clearly, they've been shot in the back while running away. This was an execution. It wasn't a fight. We could understand and empathize with Abby previously. We can't empathize and understand this kind of act. Episode 4 opens with this super, super intense flashback to years ago with Fedra, and the freaking guy from Westworld does this crazy, crazy thing where he throws these grenades into an armored truck, closes it, and then shakes hand with a civilian, clearly blowing up his Fedra people. Holy shit, that was so intense. And I'm like, right when I saw that, I'm like, new character unlocked. This guy is gonna be a thing. He's going to be a thing. And we see that throughout. This episode did a wonderful job of setting up exactly what kind of shitstorm Ellie and Dina have walked into in Seattle. We not only see the legacy between the WLF and Fedra and sort of this ongoing fighting between the civilians and the government, and how the government's trying to keep them safe, but also stripping away their rights in the process, and all the horrible things that have to be done in the apocalypse, whether they're necessary or not necessary, but just the horrible things that happen. Meanwhile, we learn a little bit more about those scar people, the scars, the Seraphites. And like I said previously, we saw what horrible things the WLF MF did to them, the wolves, but we also saw a little bit of what they've done to the wolves. Again, it's that cycle of violence. It's that back and forth. When they fire on us, we fire on them. When they turn it up a notch, we turn it up a notch, an eye for an eye. We've seen kind of the brutality and the cruelty from both sides. We get this crazy scene of Isaac torturing a Scar man with a pan, and his monologue about the French pans and cooking. Holy crap. I was just waiting for that camera to pan. I thought he'd be talking to maybe a dead person or something like that. I don't know. The way that man just stuck out his hand, awaiting whatever came his way, gave me chills. Like I said, I don't know the background in the game, but there's clearly some cultish religious aspect to these Scars. There's clearly a lot of fighting in Seattle. Dina and Ellie thought they would go there in their hero capes, ride in and seek revenge on Abby, and now they realize they're in a giant metropolitan city that has its own warring factions that are super brutal and dangerous, as well as hordes of infected lying in wait in the subway system. That scene where they walk in and see all those wolves basically hung and disemboweled is so scary. Scene in the subway cars with the infected was absolutely terrifying to me. I think it's just becoming clear that there are no good guys, definitely, and there are no bad guys. Everyone has to do horrible things to survive. It's just a matter of degree. This wrote me back into what's to come, and I'm scared. Meanwhile, we have this culminating climactic scene of Ellie getting bitten, and Dina obviously, very understandably, freaking out, terrified, upset that she has to now shoot her friend. The actress who plays Dina did such an amazing job. The terror, the exhaustion, the anxiety, ready to pull the trigger because that's all she's ever known. When Ellie makes it through the night, the way the scene ended was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little weird. She realizes not only that Ellie's okay, but that immunity is possible, something she probably thought just wasn't a thing. And then she's like, I'm pregnant, and then they start making out and then they do it. And then also Dina doesn't want morning breath, but like gets, diddled with zombie hands. I was expecting a little more realistic reaction to Ellie's immunity. I feel like there's follow-up questions. There's a lot of follow-up questions. Meanwhile, Dina's pregnant and Ellie's talking about being a dad. Like, what the fuck? That was weird. I think if someone's pregnant and you've just witnessed what you've witnessed, you would just be on your ass on the quickest pony out of Seattle. Now, I know that they're all excited and cocky about everything. Dina's only ever known the safety of Jackson, and even Ellie has been there for 5 years. So you think that there'd be this humbling moment of, holy shit, we're completely in over our heads. I think we should go back. That would be a little more realistic for me. Anyway, I really did like episode 4. I'm interested in where the season is going. I'm still very curious to see how they can carry it without Joel. I think Dina's doing a great job. Tommy, Ellie has her moments. What did you think? What are you thinking of The Last of Us so far? Make sure you leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed already. I make content about Severance, Dune, all sorts of things. Leave a comment below with what you'd like me to review next. Big shout out to my Waffle Party VIP members on Patreon. Thank you so much, as well as my other paid patrons. We have a Discord as well. There are some free channels in there. If you want to join, just join as a free Patreon member. I will see you next time. Watch out for some infected. Be very wary of cordyceps, and I'll see you next time. Bye.